You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I'm joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin. Alex, unfortunately, not able to make it with us tonight. He's still got the, that whole JOB thing going on there. So, those JOBs, man, I tell you. But Kevin, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, man. I am. My voice is still recovering from the Broncos game on Sunday. Was able to get into the stadium and check that one out. And now between that and coaching both kids, anytime I try and go higher than about this level, my voice strains and it sounds like I'm, 13 all over again. But I'm doing good. I'm happy. The Broncos got the win. And we're here on a Tuesday night talking football, man.
Right now, that was one of those that it's always interesting, especially being out here in Colorado and watching the social media exchanges across Broncos fans after a game in which they managed to win that one, right? I'm sure it was not as pretty as most of the Broncos fans would have liked, but at the end of the day, win's a win. Are there still some issues there, problems there? Sure. But that was the thing that really amazed me was how many people I saw kind of get on McManus for missing the first kick there on the field goal one. So, people were just harping on that one. I'm like, y'all realize we got a dude with a $140 million dead cap hit that, we're still seeing the offense really, really not have an engine behind it. But y'all are worried about the kicker instead of the dude that's chewing up $140 million dead cap hit this year because of an extension that also sent multiple first-round picks out of town on. So that was one of those that it just absolutely amazed me to see that. There were some really just kind of strange and interesting games out there, some wild finishes, some things I didn't necessarily expect. That was the biggest one was the butt punt. And Jimmy Garoppolo reliving Dan Orlovsky, like two things that, one, I'd never seen somebody actually, punt the ball out of the back of the end zone off of their own guy's derriere. And we'd only seen the Dan Orlovsky running out of the back of the end zone to throw the ball once before as well. But both those things happened. So it was very interesting to see that one kind of come around and see that one come to play there.
Yeah, well, and truth be told, Garoppolo got lucky because that play was picked and the Broncos returned it for a touchdown, right? The safety happened first, so that's what stood. Okay, fine. But honestly, you got a little lucky on that one because the Broncos were able to pick that one off and just goes down as 2 instead of 6. But right. Yeah, it was crazy, right? The Colts, right? The Colts kind of come out of nowhere and really stun the Chiefs, and Kansas City was just, they looked so lethargic through that whole game. Just do. And really it's kind of the same narrative from last year that the Chiefs got, right? They just kind of mosey on through the first half, maybe the third quarter, and then, expect just to turn it on when they need to. And it didn't quite work out. And then obviously the low scoring affair in Miami, right, between the Bills and the Dolphins, that didn't pan out like we wanted. And even the Vikings and the Lions, we thought that was going to be a pass happy affair. Justin Jefferson shut down for the second week in a row. That is what it is. Touchdowns went to Thielen and KJ Osborne instead of looking Jefferson's way. St. Brown still got his, so that was a good thing if you're fantasy owners. But now that we're through week 3, right, we're also getting injury bugs pop up, right, Derek? I mean, we're seeing a lot of guys get nicked up. Dalvin Cook went out, dislocated shoulder. Monty crippled teams this week, right?
I'm still mad about that one.
Or 1.2 points, whatever it was, and he went out with some ankle issues. DeAndre Swift got dinged up. Austin Eckler still doesn't look himself. But we did have a Derrick Henry sighting, so that was a plus. And Derek, we're through 3 weeks, and Saquon Barkley is RB1.
Yeah.
Did we miss the boat here?
We did. But that's okay, right? Like this was one of those that we went into this season, and I remember when we were talking about the Giants. Yeah, I was still willing to just be wrong on Saquon this year, right? And for everybody that was in on him and willing to really risk that gamble and go for it, good for you. Very much good for you. And actually, it depends a little bit too on kind of where you're looking at for some of the fantasy scorings and which format you're looking at. In half point PPR, Nick Chubb is edging him out by 1.6 points right now, it looks like. But James Robinson, another guy, missed the boat on, so to speak, there, right? Like it was not one of those that, I especially didn't think that we'd see him come back. We hadn't seen a running back really come back from an Achilles and perform like that. Certainly didn't think that he would get as much run as he was getting with the fact that they've got Travis Etienne in that same backfield there as well. And they spent first round draft capital on him. So very interesting. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, another guy that's in the top 4 that, holy moly, this is the year that fantasy managers had hoped on the last couple for CEH.
Yeah, I think CEH is the one. If I have CEH, I'm looking to sell him right now. Yep. Like he is still getting out-snapped by Jerick McKinnon. Yes, he's finding the end zone, which is helping. But if you're getting out-snapped by the other guy, eventually you're going to start coming back down to earth. So I think of that group, right, CEH is probably the one I'm looking forward, or I would be looking towards moving away from at this point. And heck, I guess to that point, Derek, maybe next week, and we'll talk about this off script too, but maybe do a little buy or sell, right? Which guys are we looking to get? Which guys are we looking to move away from? That type of thing as we get through the first quarter of the season,
right?
And kind of some adjustments teams can make if you're not off to the hottest start, right? And you feel like you need to shake things up a bit to get back into the running, right, for a high playoff seed.
Absolutely, right. And I've stated it more than once on here that I've personally started seasons 0-4 before and won the championship on there. So it can be done, right? Like you really got to play fantasy in quarters when you go out there and play it, right? You've got to play the first quarters, weeks 1 through 4, right? Like that's weeks 1 through 4 are really done in the draft. Weeks 5 through about 9 right now are dealt with through waiver wire, through trades, through making moves on that one. And then you're playing weeks 10 through 14 as that third quarter there with the way that, fantasy is kind of set up nowadays. And really, really looking to go strong at that one there and putting yourselves in a position to make the playoffs and a position to have a roster that is strong going into the playoffs there. And then, all that really matters is putting yourself into a position where you're in it for the fourth quarter, weeks 15 through 17, to go out there and try and win a championship, right? So I love that. Let's absolutely, we'll put that on the dock for next week, and we'll go through some first quarter of the season buy sell type of things here and really kind of help folks along the path there to see what we need to do on helping them win some cash and trophies. Love that idea. Yeah, let's make sure we do that. Anything else? Are we ready to start hopping into some mailbag?
I mean, I think we can jump into the mailbag. I know we've so much stuff that we can break down and go through, right? But really, let's go ahead and jump into the mailbag and see what we have for us here. How can we help the community here try and get back in the running here and get that cash and trophy?
Absolutely. And as we get in there, just want to let everybody know if you've got a question for us, you want to be in the mailbag, go ahead and send it over to us on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Yeah, just about any social media that you can think of at Good Old Boys FF. The YouTube channel is the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. And again, one of the best ways to support this independent podcast, head over to the YouTube channel, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, get all the notifications from when we go live. And anybody out there that's watching on like Twitter, when we do these live things, if you want to try and throw your questions out there for the chat, for the mailbag, when we're live on the air, hop on the YouTube channel. Hop on Twitch. We can get both of those feeds there live. Twitter, for whatever reason, just doesn't interact very well. And those responses are very delayed, things like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and hop in the mailbag here. We have the fantasy mailbag here. I don't know why it says week 3. It's week 4. We're moving on to Cincinnati in week 4. All right. Leadership Lessons need a streaming tight end option. Leadership Lessons was in the chat last week asking the same question. I told you the streaming option that I had for you was Tyler Conklin, and hopefully you followed that one because he had a very, very good week as a streaming option for you. But Kevin, what do you got here? What are you thinking here for a streaming option here, week 4?
Conklin's still a great option. He's available in a couple different leagues. David Njoku is still out there in about 50% of leagues. He's a guy that if you're streaming tight end, you want to get your hands on. Logan Thomas, a down week last week, but still a streaming option nevertheless. It's possible that people are worried and or frustrated due to Justin Herbert's injury. So pay attention and see if someone's given back Gerald Everett, right? I'm not willing to give up on him just yet. So I think he can help be that security blanket for Herbert as he's coming back from this rib injury a little bit. So if someone's willing to give back Gerald Everett, that second round of waivers, right, that people trade in and everything else, he's a guy to keep an eye on too. But I definitely think those are probably your top 4 streaming options. Irv Smith might still be out there in some leagues. He's a guy too. So keep in mind those are options. And I guess the last one is Evan Ingram still, right? This Jags offense is a lot better than we expected, guys. Like, I'm sure Urban Meyer is going to try and find a way to take credit for this, but these players, it's a nice little collaboration of offensive players, right? Like, no one necessarily wows anyone away, but Christian Kirk has been playing out of his mind. Zay Jones and Marvin Jones Jr., between the two of them, each one of them kind of steps up kind of on any given week. Normally it's not both, but you can get one or the other. And then you still have Evan Ingram splashed in there. So there's 4 options right there on top of James Robinson, like you were talking about earlier here in the opening, Derek. ETN's the one that really hasn't hit yet, right? Like, we're still waiting to kind of see him step in or the Jags to get behind again, right? They blew the Colts out. They led basically the whole game. Excuse me, this past week against the Chargers. So they haven't had to throw the ball to the running back and really check down. They've been able to be in rhythm, in timing, and drive the ball down the field. So if ETN gets on board, I mean, you have five serviceable options between, wide receiver and running back there that can help your team. And it's been a while since we've been able to say that for Jags players.
Right. Well, and you look at it too, Trevor Lawrence, big step forward this last week, finishing well above his projections out there. QB4, I believe, in most scoring formats out there, really kind of taking some people by surprise on that one. So this could be one of those that we've seen this in the past where it springboards a guy a little bit and we start seeing, some of that consistent play come through week after week on that one. And, I'm not saying that we're going to see Trevor Lawrence be up there, in a top 6, top 5 quarterback finish every single week, but he's shown that he's got the ceiling now that he could deliver you quarterback 1 performances there. And, did it against a team that I know you and I thought that this was going to be, especially if Justin Herbert played, this was going to be a blowout in favor of the Chargers. And it absolutely didn't come out that way at all. Chargers have a good defense and the Jags just looked better. So that's one.
Making up for your Friday night. Lawrence is one of those guys. If you're dealing with quarterback injuries, Lawrence is a great guy. Like, even if you think you're going to see that regression out of Carson Wentz, right? If you picked him up, or if you had Mac Jones and he went down, Tua, questionable this week. Like, this week, let me preface by this week is going to be a tough start. We're going to learn a lot about this Jacksonville team playing Philadelphia, who has been absolutely on fire through the first 3 weeks of the season. So I am fading a little bit of the Jaguars, love here this week because of who they're going up against. But after they get past this Eagles game, I think they're kind of right back on track here. So we'll see how it shakes out. Maybe they're able to surprise us a little bit, but Jacksonville's up for a test here against Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts has been playing out of his mind, and he really has improved and progressed as a passer, right? That was the big knock, and we've seen that improvement through the first 3 weeks of the season.
Right. And I guess to kind of go back there to the stream of the week that I've got for tight end, David Njoku. We'll actually get in. I'll get into David Njoku and some of my thoughts on that one here later on in the show. I've got him in a different segment there that I'm going to expand upon some of those thoughts there. Next question. This one coming in off of Twitter. Hey, man, appreciate all the help thus far. Which defense should I stream this week? Indy versus Tennessee or the Giants versus the Bears?
I'm taking the Giants versus the Bears. The Bears are definitely a one-trick pony. There's enough game film that these teams should be able to really start loading the box and taking care of that. Like, make Justin Fields try and beat you with his arm. We know the Bears don't want to throw the ball a whole heck of a lot. So I think it's only a matter of time before it's almost like the Tennessee Titans treatment in years past, only Khalil Herbert and David Montgomery are not what Derrick Henry was in those seasons. So, yes, Herbert's been a great story. He might actually end up being the better of the two running backs going forward. Like, Herbert just seems to have some spring in his step. So he's fun to watch play. But for this week, I would take the Giants against the Bears because I think that's going to be another low-scoring affair, kind of like what we just watched here on Monday Night Football.
So there was in kind of one of the group chats that I'm in, things like that, we had a running joke going into the weekend of what was going to be higher, the Bears' point total or Justin Fields' pass attempts. Well, everybody that took the Bears' point total was correct on that one. Justin Fields, again, not throwing more than 20 pass attempts in a game. So thus leading me to be out on all Bears receiving options, period. It's one of those that a lot of times we start looking at target share, things like that. Like, the passing pie is so small in Chicago, it doesn't matter, the percentage of a target share somebody has, because they can have 30% and all they're going to see is, 3 or 4 pass, targets a game. No thanks. Moving on. Alrighty. Hope that one helps you out. I'm also take the Giants as well. That Indy Tennessee game, Indy's intriguing, but really, I think Indy is really missing Shaquille Leonard more than anybody's really talking about right now. He really kind of seems to be the cement and the glue that kind of holds that defensive unit together there. And they have not looked as sharp as we would have seen in years past or would have thought coming into the season. So I want to see what they look like when he comes back. But until then, I'm not really bought in there. So I'll take the Giants, Bears, and another very low scoring affair, in my opinion. Stack Apps asking, what are we thinking about Greg Dortch rest of season?
I don't know that I'm loving Greg Dortch rest of season. I like him for about 3 more weeks. And then Nuke comes back and you still have Hollywood and Dortch. While, yes, he might have some high point games, you're not going to see the consistency out of him that you've seen here for the first couple of weeks. So enjoy it now. Maybe if you can get him, flip him. I mean, it's, trade early. You're trading at his peak. So you're trading at a prime spot there. But I do think that we see his usage and target share take a big hit once Nuke Hopkins gets back onto the field for Arizona.
Right. I'm kind of right there with you, right? You look at part of the reason that Greg Dortch has been so utilized out there in Arizona is the simple fact that DeAndre Hopkins has missed all the season so far, right? So when he comes back in, he's going to slot in as your wide receiver 1. Hollywood moves into a slot or a gunner type of wide receiver there. So you're going to see Hollywood playing the the Y or the Z. You'll see Hop, scooch out there to the X, take that roll back. AJ Green, we've seen him a little bit, so I don't know that Greg Dortch is going to supplant AJ Green on the depth chart there. But Rondale Moore's missed quite a few games here recently, and that's a guy that Kingsbury's been high on. I don't know that once Rondale Moore comes back, once you see DeAndre Hopkins come back, that you're going to see the Dortch really continue that role and continue that way there. So rest of the season, not a fan. This week though, I'm not opposed to somebody pulling him off the waiver wire and starting him this week. AJ Green also looks like he's going to miss some time this week. So your pass catchers out there in Arizona may very, very well be Hollywood Brown, Greg Dortch, Zach Ertz, and that's kind of what they're dealing with there. So I like him to start this week. I'm not a fan rest of the season. TSS Fantasy over on Twitter. Would you pick Lamar Jackson #1 overall if you could redraft today? And so I asked some follow-ups on this one just to get some clarity on the question. So it is Superflex that they're talking about, and it is redraft that they're talking about. So, Kevin, if you're sitting there 101 on the clock in a Superflex, you taking Lamar Jackson?
No.
Okay. Who you taking? Why?
No, I still think I'm taking Josh Allen. I still just – Allen doesn't run as much, but the proof has been in the pudding with what Allen has been able to do with his arm. Lamar Jackson has been on an absolute tear, but I really think if I'm redrafting today, I think Lamar Jackson's third for me. Josh Allen's first. I think I'm going Jalen Hurts second. I like the weapons that Jalen Hurts has around him more than what I like that Lamar has. So you're able to kind of bank on knowing that you're going to get 225 plus passing yards a week. Lamar Jackson has been able to do it while throwing sub 250 a couple, two of the 3 weeks, but
yeah.
Eventually he's not going to run as much, right? Teams will just start spying the crap out of him and they will adjust to this. So no, in my mind, he's in the top 3 for me for sure. He's been playing spectacular, much like his MVP season a couple years ago. But I'm still going Josh Allen and then Jalen Hurts, then Lamar.
I think I'm in that same boat as well. I want Josh Allen, and I want to see what we've seen on, continuing to go there, right? Like Josh Allen is so intriguing from the standpoint that he could, from the quarterback position, he can win you the week either way, right? He's got enough maneuverability and escapability and scrambleability that he can get out and he can get you 80 yards on the ground and get a couple in the end zone on rushing the ball in there. But he's also got the ability to go out there and throw the ball like crazy, right? He's the only quarterback right now in the league that through 3 weeks has over 1,000 passing yards out there. And he's completing 70% of his passes. The weapons in Buffalo are insane. Yeah, I think I'm going to go the Josh Allen route there as well. And I like what you had to say about Jalen Hurts there too. I think Lamar Jackson may get a little bit – the ceiling may not be quite there going forward. We just started seeing J.K. Dobbins come back, and as they work him into the offense there a little bit more. So I don't think that you're going to see Lamar Jackson necessarily take off and run quite as much. I think you'll see that ceiling get capped there just a little bit. Next question coming in on Twitter. Is it time to panic with Kyler?
I don't blame you if you want to. But if you want to, you need Kyler to be able to move him and get appropriate value. You need him to kind of have a breakout game, right? You need him to have a big week this week or next to where people can kind of think the resurgence is on. Right now, you've been getting lucky with garbage time stuff from Kyler, but really it almost feels like a slight continuation of the end of last season, right? Where teams kind of started to have him figured out a little bit. It's not quite as dynamic as what he should be. He's not running. So I don't blame you if you want to move on from Kyler, but now's not the time to do it. You're basically selling at dang near the lowest point you can get with him. You need him to have a breakout game to increase the value or the apparent value of the name, and then you can move away from him. So you got to hold on to him for at least one more week and hope he goes gangbusters. And then if you want to move him, go ahead.
Remind me too, if memory serves right, Kyler Murray was drafted as somewhere in the 6th, 7th, 8th quarterback off the board. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
I'm having a heck of a time pulling up my my ADPs here, but so I mean he was taken in that 6th, 7th, 8th range. He's currently QB9 for the season through 3 weeks. I mean, you pretty much what you drafted is what you're kind of seeing out there, right? Like there's he's returning about with the ADP draft value that you took him at on that one. So I don't know that it's time to panic on that one, right? Garbage time is a thing, and he's definitely been pulling out some of those things there. But we talked about this one before the season started there as well. Kyler Murray with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray without DeAndre Hopkins is a massively different player. That DeAndre Hopkins has swung the needle for Kyler Murray for about 5 to 6 points per game on a scoring average there. So at that point, if you take Kyler, who's scoring, what is it, right about 20 points per game for fantasy right now, and you start talking about him being 25 points per game for fantasy, that moves him all the way up into QB like 4 or 5. Like you're not at all concerned about a guy you drafted in that position. He's actually returning value for you there. So no, I would not panic on Kyler there. I certainly understand why you would take that thought process, though. Hey, man, who wins this trade? Team A gets Dameon Pierce and Antonio Gibson. Team B gets James Conner and Michael Carter. It's redraft, non-PPR. So you're talking about a standard league. Who you got there winning that one between Pierce, Gibby versus Conner, Carter?
I think I'm taking Pierce and Gibson. We're starting to see this Breece Hall emergence, right? Michael Carter, it's 50-50, but Breece Hall, what do you see? 11 targets last week, something like that. So that was supposed to be Michael Carter's role and ended up going to Breece Hall. Like, yes, things could change slightly, and that's the biggest, I guess, unknown, right, with the Jets. With Zach Wilson coming back, does he have different favorites, right? Do we see Elijah Moore get some more run? Do we see Corey Davis fade off, right? Like, I think Garrett Wilson still continues to do his thing, but who does Zach Wilson trust as far as the running backs go? So I think I'm taking Gibson and Dameon Pierce. I'm hoping that Brian Robinson is still on the bench or on the waiver wire, right? And you can maybe stash him if possible, but with it being a non-PPR, it doesn't really matter that Dameon Pierce isn't going to see a whole bunch of the passing work, that it's going to go to Rex Burkhead, right? And James Conner typically does see 5 catches a game. Michael Carter sees 3 to 5 catches a game. Like, all those are points that you're not getting in this matchup where the Texans don't really have a choice. They have Dameon Pierce, and Rex Burkhead's not really a good substitute for running the ball in between the tackles.
No, he's not. And I think I'm kind of right there with you, right? You've got what appears to be 2 expiring players on that one with Michael Carter and with Antonio Gibson, with some potential things that are going to shake up their roles there at that point. And I think Gibson, they'll still find a way to work him in. I don't know that Carter is going to necessarily get worked in as much, especially since he showed up good week 1, and we've seen him, even though he's played well, his role continued to get decreased there a little bit. So I think I'm kind of with you that I'd rather have Gibby, who I think will still have a little bit bigger upside there, and Carter and Pierce, who is I think going to have an overall probably better combination between the two of those. Question coming in on the chat here. Baby Santa on YouTube. Yo, would you cash in on Madison for Jeff Wilson? Doesn't have Dalvin, but he does have Elijah Mitchell. Singletary is my second running back right now. I think I would do that.
No.
Okay.
No, cash in on. I want to phrase this correctly. I would rather have Jeff Wilson than Alexander Madison.
Then you want to take the trade. So what he's saying is, does he want to cash in and sell high on Madison? He doesn't have Dalvin Cook. He has the Elijah Mitchell side. And it sounds to me like he's going to be trading Alexander Madison for Jeff Wilson.
Yes. Jeff Wilson's going to get run even after Eli comes back. So right. I would take Jeff Wilson. You're going to have more of a longer-term return there. So I would rather have Jeff Wilson personally. Madison, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 weeks out of. And really this coming week against the Saints in London, we'll get to this later in the show, but I don't want any part of Alexander Madison this week.
No. Well, and not only that, right? Like, this is the same old injury that we keep seeing from Dalvin Cook, right? Like, this is one of those that we've seen Dalvin Cook get the separated shoulder, get the dislocated shoulder. He comes out, wears the harness, and just goes beast mode in that harness the next week. So there's a chance that Alexander Mattison doesn't play or plays in a limited fashion this week and going forward, right? Like, so yes, I would make the trade. And he did comment and stipulate that, yeah, he's trading Madison for Jeff Wilson. So yes, I want the Jeff Wilson side of this. You've got your handcuff in Elijah Mitchell there as well. And Singletary is not a bad one to have as an RB2 if they, if Buffalo's keep scoring points the way that they are. So yeah, I would absolutely do that. Kevin's on board as well. So yes, cash in on Madison, get the Jeff Wilson side of that trade. Kevin on YouTube, Dobbs or Lazard rest of season. What are you thinking here?
I know it's just one flash, but it does seem like for PPR leagues, you want to lean towards Dobbs at this point, right? He seems to be gaining the trust of Aaron Rodgers. Last week was a huge thing against a Tampa Bay team that is ferocious. And while they both got into the end zone, it was Dobbs that continued to see those looks. I think if it's a standard league, then I think I'd rather have Lazard. I think the touchdown possibility is a little bit higher with Allen Lazard. But if you're in a PPR league, I do think that Dobbs gains enough of the target share and gets those receptions to kind of balance that out fairly well. And then, if he's able to get into the end zone, if he ends up scoring 6 or 7 this year, I think that outdoes what we're going to end up seeing Lazard doing. So I think it depends on the type of league you're in, but I do really, really like Romeo Dobbs.
I like Dobbs as well, right? And he's gotten some consistent work there, right? Like we've seen him, week 1, he had 5 targets. Week 2, only 3 targets. Week 3, he got 8 targets out there. So he's getting some consistent work there. This was a guy that, right, like this is kind of one of those that the stars kind of align on this one for me on this guy. Whereas Lazard was hurt during a lot of the preseason, missed week 1, missed some training camp. Like there was a lot of missed time for Lazard on this one to really kind of step up and cement his place as wide receiver 1 in this offense. Dobbs came out and impressed in training camp, came out and impressed in the preseason, and has started to impress here in during the regular season here as well. So we've seen that kind of go through in 3 different stages there, and I like the Romeo Dobbs there as well, right? Like there's not many times that we see a rookie come out here and flash as a top 12 wide receiver in any given week this early in the season. It generally takes them a little bit more time to pick things up and go there. And what is the best way that a receiver earns Aaron Rodgers' trust? It's catching the ball and being where you're supposed to be and making the play that you're supposed to be making. We all know Aaron Rodgers not afraid to mince words and not afraid to share his thoughts about people. But Romeo Dobbs was a guy that even in preseason and training camp had very good remarks to say about things. So I do think Romeo Dobbs has kind of caught Rodgers' eye here, and he will continue to get fed the ball. And I think that's going to be his favorite target here rest of the season for Packers. And Christian Watson was drafted much higher than Romeo Dobbs. We've yet to see Christian Watson be healthy. Like this seems to be a nagging thing that keeps kind of popping up here. So, I'm going to take Dobbs over Lazard rest of the season for me, I think. Next question coming in. Would you trade Mixon for Derrick Henry? I'm assuming that's Derrick Henry on that one. Straight up.
I don't know that I would based off the week that Henry, if I'm a Henry owner, I'm a Mixon owner, right? Like I have this in my home league. So Mixon hasn't really had that breakout game yet. He's seeing the usage, but really hasn't been able to kind of make it work. And whether it's the offensive line gelling or just them not being in the right rhythm in the run game, like I feel like Mixon's due. So I think bigger things are ahead. What I'm wondering is Henry finally back, right? That game against the Raiders, did they finally wake him up enough that, he's going to continue to get better as the season goes on? as he has the past couple of years where he's remained healthy. I think I'm standing pat. With it being Mixon's going to see a little bit more passing work than Henry will, right? Yes, the 5 catches for 56 was kind of out of the blue, but I think more often than not, you'll see Mixon with better passing numbers by the time the year's over. I think the carries, obviously, Derrick Henry will probably lead the way in carries. But I think I'd rather have Joe Mixon, a little bit younger, not coming off an injury, that type of thing. So I'd lean the Mixon side, but only by a fraction. I'm not going to fight anybody if they take an opposing side.
Yeah, Derrick Henry is one that's very interesting, right? What we saw teams do in weeks 1 and 2 is if you can get hands on Derrick Henry in the backfield, he's going down, right? Like he seemingly has to have that 8 yards head of steam going and in order to really, go Derrick Henry type of mode on that. Joe Mixon, again, we'll see a lot of work, see a lot of volume there. I don't know that we're going to see I think that Mixon has better PPR value than Henry does, but yeah, that was the thing that Tennessee, in order to get that going, they've got to be able to establish a passing game there, which they were able to do against the Raiders, but we hadn't seen that happen previous weeks. So, I'm good with either side there. I think I'd rather lean
It's a tough
Mixon.
one, right? That's a tough one.
I think I'd lean the Mixon side, but some of that could just be the fact that, I'm a big Mixon fan to begin with. So, I'd probably lean the Mixon side, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting the Derrick Henry side on that one either. All righty. Well, Kevin, I think that's going to wrap up the mailbag here. Let's hit this one up here real quick. Somebody just throwing in a comment on there. Mr. COD took another L this week. Carr, Henry, Monty, Deontay Johnson, Dotson, Pitts, Hardman, Seibert. Bench was Herbert. I believe that's Marvin Jones, Landry, McKenzie, Evan Ingram. His final lost by about 12 points there. And his final thought was that if only Dallas was able to stop Barkley last night, he could have won. It was a nail biter. That one there, let's just be honest. If David Montgomery doesn't go down on that one, you probably win that one pretty handily there. And Khalil Herbert in backup role finished his RB1 that last week, and it wasn't that David Montgomery was looking good before he went down there. So I think that you could have seen David Montgomery absolutely shine last week had it not been for the injury on that one. And that 1 point definitely killed you because, you probably would have gotten 18-20 out of him without that, and you probably win by 5. So those ones are certainly a little bit rough there. Any other thoughts on that one?
Nah, Dobbs came back down to earth, but the Commanders, man, I about slipped. The Commanders ran into a buzzsaw, right? Nobody on that team did anything of note in the game against the Eagles. It wasn't just Dobbs. It was really all the way around. So Dobbs had the hot hand, and you're trying to ride that, and it didn't quite pan out. The Monty injuries hosed you. It got me in a work league. In a work league, I am 0-3 in a work league. I am all 3 weeks I finished as the 3rd highest scoring team and lost obviously to the 1st or 2nd highest scoring team, but I have 100 points more against me through 3 weeks in just a standard half point PPR than any other team in my league. And I lost by 6. Monty crushed me. It would have been able to been, not only would I have won that week, but I probably would have been the high scorer that week, which in this work league pays out cash each week to the high scorer. So I feel you. I'm right there with you. It's not fun, but there's no way to predict injuries, right? That's why we keep hitting the waiver wire. There's a couple things I would get rid of Hardman and McKenzie right away. There has to be better options on your waiver wire where you can feel better about yourself than Hardman or Isaiah McKenzie. Yes, they're part of high-powered offenses, but they're the third or fourth fiddle on high-powered offenses. So, let's take a look at that come waiver wire session.
Yeah, I don't actually, to be honest with you, I wouldn't mind the Isaiah McKenzie if I've got him on my roster as like my fourth or fifth wide receiver. And in which case that would still be the case there with he's got Deontay Johnson, Dotson, Marvin Jones, Landry. So, I mean, there's some things there that I wouldn't mind hanging on to Isaiah McKenzie just from the standpoint that, I kind of like that move there. But the problem is Isaiah McKenzie, you're going to have to guess which week it is because he'll have blow-up leaks like he had this last week. He's going to have disappearing acts following, the following weeks there. So he's a perfect best ball candidate, but for redraft, redraft type of thing, that's a poison that you're going to have to take that pill and swallow it and accept the results if you decide to play him.
Yeah. I just got Ricky James, right?
Yep.
From the Giants. Not a sexy name. No one's talking about him. But with Sterling Shepard going down with the ACL injury, Kenny Galladay's in the doghouse. He's kind of the de facto, and
Wan'Dale's down too. Like James is kind of the de facto 1.2 wide receiver there, right? Like he's a guy who's probably on your waiver wire. Take a flyer on him, right? Nico Collins from Houston. Again, not a sexy name. We don't think of Houston as a high-powered offense, but he's seeing enough targets and enough of the target share and opportunity that he's a better option for consistency than Hardman or McKenzie. So there's just got to be a couple different things, right? Donovan Peoples-Jones had the big week, floundered last week. I don't know that I'm giving up on him just yet. He's a deep dive because they got to have someone else to throw the ball to besides Cooper and Njoku. They need another option in the passing game. So there's definitely things out there that you can look at. Here's some top waiver wires out there on guys that are owned in roughly 50% or less leagues. Romeo Doubs, Treylon Burks, Russell Gage, Michael Gallup, Greg Dortch, Zay Jones. I'd rather have every single one of those guys over Mecole Hardman.
Fact.
Like we just ran through, listed off 6 guys that are very likely on your waiver wire, and looking at it, right? So consensus rostership here. Romeo Doubs is a 20% roster across the majority or across leagues. Treylon Burks right at 51%. But it's not going to surprise me if you see that number drop this week and people actually drop Treylon Burks to go after somebody else on that one. That's a name I wouldn't necessarily drop there. Russell Gage, 48%. Russell Gage is going to be a spot start there. Michael Gallup, 41% rostered. Greg Dortch, 12% rostered. Zay Jones, 10% rostered. Those are all guys that you could go out, you could pick up, and you could reasonably start over the likes of Mecole Hardman. So that would absolutely be one of the ways that I would look about going and trying improving my my roster off of that one. And so, Kevin, we'll come back. We'll touch on any other names out there that people need to be aware of. Guys that folks need to be targeting here for the waiver wire. But first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about Trophy Smack. And so, guys, over at here at the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast, we're all about cash and trophies. And now you can get a completely customized trophy for your league at TrophySmack.com. You want a championship belt or a winner's ring? Trophy Smack has you covered on that as well. Check it out on TrophySmack.com. You can utilize the code GOBFF on that one as well. You got the link down in the description on the podcast and on the YouTube there as well. And you can help the boys out on that one there as well if you get a trophy over there. But TrophySmack.com, get your customized trophy over there today. Alrighty, so Kevin, back talking waiver wire. We just hit up 6 different wide receivers that we'd rather have over the likes of Mecole Hardman. What are some other positions out there, some other names out there that folks should be looking at to roster for their fantasy teams?
Well, I think everyone needs to be aware of the running back injuries that we talked about earlier, right? So Khalil Herbert is a guy that you want on your roster. I think he's going to have some sustainable value with or without Monty in the lineup. So another guy who's probably right about 50% owned, depending on how deep your league is or isn't. Dobbs is a guy you want. With DeAndre Swift missing time, Jamal Williams is a guy that you want to keep an eye out for. If you're in a deep league, Craig Reynolds is another guy. He's the other Detroit running back who, if you're in a deep league, you start multiple flexes, any type of thing that sucks up bandwidth. He's a guy that's worth possibly bringing onto your lineup if you're really struggling at running back and need some help there. Obviously, the Madison deal, you want to keep an eye on that. Madison should be rostered, but by happenstance, if he's not, you want to keep him and you want to bury him for the weeks that Dalvin doesn't go, because Dalvin's not playing all 17 games. So those are kind of the top 3 running backs that you need to keep an eye on. And then we covered tight end at the beginning, right? With was it leadership lessons that asked about that one? Yep. Just covered receivers and running backs. I think quarterback. Here's where it starts to get dirty. If you're looking for a streaming quarterback, long term, you want to look for Trevor Lawrence. Short term, as ugly as this sounds, Geno Smith against the against the Detroit Lions this week is a pretty good matchup for him, right? We saw what he just did against the Falcons, and I think the same type of results can be expected here against the Lions. So Geno Smith is a name that you could be looking out for as well, which is kind of deeper in leagues. Daniel Jones has been using his legs more, so that does help. He's not going to get you 3 touchdowns in a game, though, right? Like, you have to be pretty desperate to look at Daniel Jones. But if he's able to get it done on his legs, we saw this the first, 4 or 5 games of last year too, right?
Yep.
He was able to catch defenses by surprise, use his legs, and, get upwards of 70, 80 yards, and even break off a couple really long scrambles to help kind of bolster his fantasy performance. So not great, but there you go. And if you're a diehard Miami fan and you think not Jacoby Brissett, Teddy Bridgewater is the answer. Thursday night football, right? It's a quick turnaround. So if Tua can't go, Teddy Bridgewater's your guy. There's a ton of weapons for him to use. So I do think he holds fantasy relevance, but I'm still not putting him any higher than like 17th, and probably even a little bit lower in my weekly rankings.
Yes. Jared Goff, another name out there that I wouldn't have a problem starting as a spot start if I needed somebody for that. Seattle, even Seattle's giving up the 5th most points to opposing quarterbacks out there, and I wouldn't have a problem. Spot starting Jared Goff, who right now is QB 11 on the season, has had some pretty decent weeks there. He's managed to keep that a little bit under control. It hasn't been necessarily as turnover prone as we've seen. Haven't seen some of the mistakes overall there. One quick note there on that one. Word of caution on the Jared Goff side of things. This week here, while I wouldn't mind starting him, he may be without his 2 top offensive playmakers in both DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So that's one of those that you need to factor that into your decision there. But I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with a spot start on a Jared Goff. I wouldn't necessarily mind streaming him throughout the season here a little bit from what I've seen so far. Any other thoughts here?
No, I think that kind of touches the highlights. So if y'all have specific questions, let us know. But those are kind of our general thoughts there on waiver wire spot start ideas as we get into week 4.
Alrighty. So question coming in over on the Twitter, Fantasy Burner 12 over on Twitter. Sky Moore, 11 round keeper, or James Cook, round 9 keeper. Finally cut. Enize, Lawrence, or Packers defense. I don't mind the Packers defense. That's
no, the Packers defense is coming up on a nice little stretch here.
Yes.
If you're looking at streaming defenses and you don't have one of the elite ones, right? So they have New England against presumably Hoyer, and then
that's a smash start there. So New England, the Giants, the Jets, the Commanders. So they've got like a good 4-week stretch here that I wouldn't mind picking them up and starting.
Absolutely. And then week 8, right, which is that'll be a tough one against the Bills,
Mm-hmm.
especially on the road. And then it kind of opens back up, right? Detroit, Dallas, Tennessee. I mean, so Packers aren't a bad option, especially if they're sitting there on the waiver wire. You're looking to upgrade a little bit.
Right. Any thoughts on Zay Jones, Trevor Lawrence? We already hit the Trevor Lawrence there a little bit, saying that definitely worth a streaming candidate now going forward. Although I don't know that I necessarily love their matchup this week, but Zay Jones also another guy wouldn't mind kind of messing around with and playing, giving some spot starts here and there. He's doing very well. Definitely available on the waiver wire, but. The other question there too, Sky Moore with an 11th round keeper, James Cook with a 9th round keeper. Would you cut them?
I guess it depends on who you're really picking up, right? James Cook has been, both really have been completely ineffective. Sky Moore's at least returning punts, so you can kind of get possibly some bonus points out of that if he's able to take one back, or if your league does bonus points for return yardage. James Cook, I think James Cook, Moss is gone next year, right? And then
it's Singletary that's off of his contract. Moss still on his rookie deal.
So, jeez. I think I would rather have James Cook. It's just because running backs are so damn hard to come by, right? Like I think you can get if Sky Moore doesn't do squat this year, the nucleus of Kansas City doesn't really change, right? Would I drop either one of them like right now? No. If you have the bench space to kind of hide James Cook, go for it. If you don't, then I understand, but I would like to try and keep both of them somehow and just hope that here the second half of the season they're able to kind of get their wits about them, right, and get used to this NFL game, and then they start being productive here the back end of the season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is one of those that I wouldn't mind. Although with an 11th round pick for Sky Moore, I get that in a keeper type of league, 9th round. Rookies, I always want to try and hang on, especially if I've got keeper type of potential there through the back half and see what they start looking like, as it starts getting into weeks 8, 9, 10 type of thing. But if you don't have the roster spot to hold on to them and you need to go out and make some moves and make some things happen in order to be able to win and put yourself in a position for the playoffs, I understand that one too. And I between the two, Sky Moore would be the first one that I would get rid of. But I'm kind of right there with you. I'd rather hang on to them a little bit longer if I certainly could. All right. And again, guys, if you have any other questions, anything like that, throw them out there in the chat. Let's talk about them. Let's go through them. Let's go ahead and hit the Pine and Shine results last week. Alex called for a Pine of Raheem Mostert. Definitely hit on that one. Greg Dortch, he called for a Shine. He definitely hit on that one. How about yours?
Mine was a Pine DJ Moore, which was kind of a no-brainer. That Carolina offense looks so bad. Looks so bad right now. So Pine DJ Moore, that was a good call. Shine Amon-Ra St. Brown. Barely am I going to say I got there. He got just enough, especially in PPR leagues, to make it worthwhile. He didn't hit the end zone and then went out with the ankle injury. So could have been better if not for the injury, but it was dang close.
Right. Yeah, Amon-Ra had that had that week to definitely put that up for you PPR wise. Mine, I missed on both of them. Christian Kirk, I called for the Pine on that one. That one, he ended up showing up in a big way there. Called for the Shine on Devin Montgomery. And it's tough to get 1 point and hit on a Shine, but I still feel good about the process there because his backup came in and finished his RB1 on the week. So missed opportunity because of injury there. But so I'm going to miss on both of mine. That takes it to Alex being 5-1, me 3-3, and Kevin up to 4-2 right now on our Pines and Shines so far in the season. Another question coming in from Damian the Beast on YouTube. Should I trade Najee and Hollywood for, I'm going to guess that's Kamara and Judy. He gets the Kamara side.
Absolutely not.
No.
Do not make that trade. So you want Najee. It's, again, that would be selling him at his floor, right? Like, it's been a bit of a rough start. They're trying to find ways to use him, get him into space. He got in the end zone last week, which is a good thing. Hollywood coming off of a really good week last week. So, no, Kamara, you don't want any part of Alvin Kamara. Like, if I'm an Alvin Kamara owner, I'm begging someone to take him off my hands right now.
That's what I'm dealing with in the home league. Yeah, I've got Kamara, and I can't find a trade partner for that one.
Yeah, I don't want any part of it. And Jerry Jeudy, absolutely playing second fiddle there in the Broncos offense. They haven't clicked well enough to truly be able to support two receivers. Dropped another deep pass on Monday night, which arguably would have been a touchdown. No, I'm keeping Hollywood and Najee.
Yeah, absolutely. So, absolutely. All righty. Let's go ahead and head on in over to the I see another comment coming in, and this one I think we need to talk about here. If it ever pops up here. There we go. This guy named Alex, who we would love to see his face on here with us, but he's still got that JOB thing, but he's finding some time to chime in here. I feel like y'all skipped over the part where that guy Alex is doing really good on the Pine and Shine calls. I just said you were 5-1, man. You're doing good.
The shine of Greg Dortch was really good, and I'll give him that. I'm not giving him credit for these Pines. Raheem Mostert, which is RB like 56, saying that he wasn't going to have a good game against the Bills. Woohoo. And then same thing here. Cam Akers, who's been struggling mightily to get anything going on the ground, picking him to, crap the bed again. Like, I need a little bit more explosiveness out of you, man. Like, these cupcakes aren't cutting it for me.
Although I will absolutely that Greg Dortch call
was great.
Fantastic.
Great. Yeah, the Greg Dortch call was great.
And
these pines though, like, dude.
I will give it to him a little bit for the pine of the Raheem Mostert, right? He came off of a hot week, and consensus ranking wise, I know you and I were much lower on that one, and so was Alex. But industry wide, he was ranked 39th running back heading in there, which puts him in territory for a flex kind of play on that one. And he finished at like running back 86. Like, so I like this one. Dortch was my piece de resistance. I should retire after that call. Right away, right off into the sunset, riding high, I guess. Absolutely, right? Like the shine, and you just ride off into the sunset. Let's hope that your shine this week plays out that well.
You don't get this damn work stuff figured out, we're going to start thinking you're retired.
All right, let's go ahead and head into the Thursday night games here, and a little preview here of the Thursday night. We have the Dolphins playing the Bengals. Since he's favored, I've seen this line fluctuate anywhere from 3 to 3.5, over under 47.5. What are your thoughts on this one?
I'm taking Cincinnati in the over. I'm not convinced that Tua is going to play, and if he does, back injuries are no joke, right? Like we've seen really terrible things happen when quarterbacks have back issues. It's part of it. It's part of the core, right? It's part of what he's using to throw the ball. It's part of how he scrambles a little bit, right? You start taking hits when you already have a back injury, and it just makes it really, really tough. So I don't think Tua is going to play, and I've seen firsthand what Teddy Two Gloves doesn't do at quarterback anymore. So I'm taking Cincinnati. They're coming off, they're I say big win, but they're convincing win over the Jets. They're at home on Thursday Night Football. They're going to be, hyped up for a primetime game here. So I think the Bengals win this game and cover the 3 points.
I like that one. This is one of those that I've gone back and forth. And before I get into my long explanation here, you want to go ahead and hit Alex's side of what he's thinking is going to happen on this one?
Yep. So Alex is taking Miami plus the 3. He's thinking over. I'm sorry, I don't know if I said I'm thinking the over as well. So Alex is buying in the fact that Tua is playing, that he's going to be just fine. They're fleecing the Bengals, if you will. So Egan thinks Miami's coming into Cincinnati, and they're going to make a big statement here on national television.
So this is one that I have gone back and forth on this one multiple times, right? I've sat there and I've tried to figure out, and it's one of those that when I actually go into to make my what I will be putting the money on there, it all depends on whether Tua is playing, but I'm going to wait and see what this thing looks like towards the end. But I think I've got to take the home team on this one. I think I'm going to have to take Cincinnati. I do think that we're going to see an under on this one. Cincinnati's offensive line has not looked good at all. We saw the Dolphins defense managed to hold the Bills to 20 points in that matchup and in that game there. And that was even with gifting them 2 of those 19 points that they got. So I don't know that I'm necessarily sold on Cincinnati's high-powered offense this year. I even said that coming into the season that I was a little worried and that this might be a little bit of a regression for them. But I do think Cincinnati does enough to win this thing at home. I do think I'm going to take the under, though, on this one. I think that this is going to be about a 23-20 type of game. Like, this is going to be a field goal type of game. And so this is one of those that it's going to very much depend if Tua is playing and where the spread is actually at on Thursday night when I go to officially put those things into some of the books there. But if it's a 3-point game, I'm going to take Cincinnati. If it's anything more than about 3 points and Tua is playing, I would float the Dolphins on the cover there then. So any other thoughts on this matchup? That's 2.
It should be good, right? If you wanted Tua to be healthy, right? Just to see more offense, right? As a fan, as a fantasy manager, that's what we want to see. And with what the Dolphins have been able to do with Tyreek and Waddle and the kind of flipping and flopping between Chase Edmonds and Mostert, they've been fun to watch. And the defense is good. We don't talk about their defense very much, but Miami's defense is very feisty, I think is the word that I want to use, right? They will get after you. So I'll have to look and see if there's a prop on sacks for Joe Burrow, but I think at 4.5, I might still be leaning the over there if that's where the over-under is of sacks of Joe Burrow for this game. So it should be a fun one, though, as far as Thursday night football games go. Non-divisional opponents, which I'd rather see on Thursday night football. And I'm sure Miami's happy because they get the hell out of Florida with the storm coming in.
Yes, I'm sure of that one there as well. All righty, let's go ahead and we're going to head on over to and talk about some touchdown dances here on Thursday night. So Thursday night touchdown dance. It's a game we play over a monkey knife fight, and fun little game we play, right? To a touchdown dance. You pick 3 players. You pick your how many touchdowns you think the cumulative will be between those 3 players that you have, and you ultimately get to pick your prize there. More than 2.5 touchdowns is a time 2 prize. More than 3.5 touchdowns is a time 3 prize, and more than 4.5 touchdowns is a time 6 prize. So we've got the Dolphins. We've got the Bengals. They're squaring off. They're going at it. They're going to play. You're going to play with us here over on monkeyknifefight.com. Use the promo code GOBFF, and you can get a 100% deposit match up to $100 over there on Monkey Knife Fight. But Kevin, let's hit it up. Let's talk about your 3. Which way you leaning here and going with?
Taking Mixon, Higgins, and Waddle. And I am going times 3. So between the 3 of them, I'm expecting 4 tutties.
Wow, that is impressive. I like that call.
Call me over. I got to back it up.
It's true. That is very true. I do like the Mixon call. I'm going to shadow you on that one. I like the Waddle call. I'm going to shadow you on that one there as well. But I do think that we're going to see a different Cincinnati receiver make it into the end zone here, and that's going to be Jamar Chase. I'm going to go a little bit more on the not as not as happy side of points since I called for the under, and I'm just going to take a ×2 price on that one is how I'm looking and working on that one. Any other thoughts on this one?
I hope it's not Chase. I'm facing him this week in a lot of fantasy leagues, so I'm kind of hoping Chase has a bummer of a week.
Man, that was me last night with CD Lamb. I think I went up against him in about 7 different leagues, and that ended up being the difference in every one of them. So I was crying a little bit last night. That was not a fun one. So I like it. So we've got it. We both see Mix and Waddle finding the end zone. A little bit of difference between Chase and Higgins there, but we'll see how that one comes out, and we'll report back here on what that one looks like on Friday's episode. Again, you can play along with us over there at monkeyknifefight.com. Put in the promo code GOBFF when signing up, and you can get that 100% deposit match up to $100 over there on Monkey Knife Fight. Let's go ahead and head into the Pine and the Shine this week here. And the Pine, right? So we're calling it out and taking the guy that we think is worth a sit out there. Alex is going to start us off there, and he's calling for a Cam Akers Pine, saying the Niners are allowing the second fewest yards per contact. Henderson has been getting more carries lately. What are your thoughts on the Pine?
Cupcake.
Not his Pine. What's your Pine?
Oh, sorry. I was too busy bashing Alex. My Pine for the week is going to be Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison. And I paired him up just because of the injury to Dalvin Cook. They're going up against New Orleans in London. New Orleans has a really good rushing defense. Sometimes on the back end, they give it up a little bit, but up front, they're very, very stout. So I don't know that it necessarily matters which back it is. I am fading both of them as a Pine, and we'll just kind of have to see how that shakes out come the game time here. But bench
Minnesota running back is what I heard.
Yes.
All right. I like it. My Pine for this week, I've got a wide receiver in mind, and wide receiver from high-powered offense, nonetheless. I'm going to call for Juju Smith-Schuster to be a Pine on this one. Again, right, you're going to be playing the kind of that Russian roulette, picking which receiver it's going to be that week in Kansas City. But they're going up against an incredibly tough matchup there. The Buccaneers are ranked 25th in giving up points to opposing wide receivers. They're allowing about 15% fewer points to opposing wide receivers than the league average there at that one. So I'm going to call for the Juju Pine on this one. Currently, he's kind of ranked right there at wide receiver 33 as far as kind of the expert consensus. Now, that may fluctuate up and down a little bit, but at the moment, he is in that wide receiver 3 territory and definitely worth flex consideration for most folks in that kind of territory. So I'm going to save everybody the worry and the hassle on that one, and I'm just going to say bench him, find yourself somebody else to start there. All righty. That's going to go ahead and head us over into the Shine. And when we're talking Shine here, we're talking about guys that we think are going to drastically outperform or they're worth a start. You know, this might be a guy that's buried there a little bit, somebody that you may have to pull off a waiver wire, something like that to stick in there and rock and roll, but somebody that will outperform where they're going at. Alex, calling for Robbie Anderson versus Arizona. The Cardinals have struggled against the pass. Anderson has the second most targets on the team through 3 weeks. What are your thoughts?
My shot of the week is going to be Gabe Davis. I think the Bills are going to be a little hot here after dropping that game to Miami. So I expect Gabe Davis to have about 85 yards and a touchdown here this week for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I could see that one. I see him having a big week here as well, and very interested to see how that one turns out. My start of the week is a position we generally don't touch on when we start talking start of the weeks, right? We typically stick with running backs and wide receivers for start of the weeks. However, leadership lessons, I got you on this one. You were asking earlier about, streaming tight end. This tight end still available in many, many leagues out there. When you're talking that, yeah. David Njoku right now available in almost 60% of leagues. He's going up against a very, very favorable matchup here. The Falcons have allowed the second most points to opposing tight ends there, giving up almost 30% more points to opposing tight ends than any other team out there. We just saw the what I think is going to be kind of the breakout for David Njoku as the second targeted player on that team, right? Like we've seen that kind of go where Jacoby Brissett is going to look at Amari Cooper, he's going to look David Njoku, and if it's not there, he's probably going to check down or he's going to just not get a negative play or throw the ball away, I think is what we're going to see on that play. So I like David Njoku there. Not going to surprise me to see him potentially end up with a touchdown on this one, and not going to surprise me to see him go out and get probably 6 or 7 targets in this game. So you should see the volume. I think the touchdown upside is there, and I really like the potential for a David Njoku streaming tight end play here. Any other thoughts on the shines?
Best of luck to us.
I like it. All righty. A couple of questions coming in here in the chat. Let's hit those up. Palmer or Curtis Samuel, week 4, full point PPR. It's Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel. Herbert's still injured, so his ability to distribute the ball out to receivers is going to be a little tough. We expect Keenan Allen to come back as well, so Curtis Samuel's your start. Yeah,
Keenan's supposed to be back this week. Curtis Samuel's a guy that at this point should almost be locked into your roster until something else happens to take him out of that, right? The Commanders have shown a propensity to want to use him, and he's very much in the game script every single week. They're going out and they're finding a way to continually get him the ball, whether it's designing run plays for him to come out of the backfield and get those, or whether it's the fact that Carson Wentz is kind of locked onto him a little bit and is making sure that he feeds him the ball. But 30 targets through 3 games here. He's averaging 10 targets a game. He's catching the majority of those. Last week was the first week that we didn't see him get into the end zone, but he's also getting 2 or 3 rushing attempts on average here each week as well. So I'm playing Curtis Samuel until something shows me that I shouldn't. Chef over on YouTube, should I trade Pierce, Gabe Davis, and Muth for Cooper, Devontae Smith, and Curtis Samuel? I'm assuming that that's Amari Cooper, Devontae Smith, and Curtis Samuel. So Damian Pierce, Gabe Davis, and Freiermuth for Amari Cooper, Devontae Smith, Curtis Samuel. Which side you got?
I
like both sides.
I do like both sides, and for different reasons, right? Like if you're hurting at receiver and need some depth, the Cooper, Smith, and Samuel side make a ton of sense, right? If you're just not liking what you have at wide receiver. I like Damian Pierce going forward here as far as the running back goes. So if you have the running back depth to where you don't need Pierce, then I completely understand the trade, and I say go ahead. But if you're not sure and you think you might need running back depth here throughout the season, I think I sit tight because running backs are extremely valuable, even though for a lot of teams they're almost treated like a dime a dozen.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree with that thought process there as well, right? Like you get a little bit of you get a lot of depth at wide receiver there, right? Each one of those guys is a top 20 wide receiver this season. 2 of those guys currently sitting as wide receiver 10 and 11 out there in half-point scoring for season long so far. But you're going to see some fluctuations on that one as the season progresses there. I like the Gabe Davis piece by itself. That's a great wide receiver 2 or 3. In a lot of cases, you probably have him on your roster as a third. Freiermuth is a pretty easy guy to just kind of lock in at a tight end position week over week. And Damian Pierce is certainly going to get some good volume and be a good running back 2 or flex play for you. So,
which one of these 6 guys do you like most going forward here for the rest of the season?
Rest of the season, I think the 2 guys I like the most going forward rest of the season is actually Curtis Samuel and Amari Cooper.
Maybe that is the way to go, right? Because if I had to rank these guys rest of season, I'd tell you it's Cooper, Smith, Pierce, Samuel. Probably Cooper, Smith, Davis, Pierce, Samuel, Freiermuth. So
I've got a little different than that one. I've got it where it's Cooper, Smith, Davis, Pierce, Smith, and then Muth. Is kind of how I see that one there, right? Like, but I mean, either way, I like the Cooper and Samuel's side. I just don't necessarily like that. That's one of those I would have to feel really good about my ability to either stream tight end the rest of the season or who I've got as my backup tight end there. Because with where you would have had to draft Freiermuth, you would have had to have taken him with a single-digit pick there. And Dameon Pierce, depending upon when you drafted, you may have had to take him as a early 5th. So,
They were talking ourselves into taking all those receivers, but my statement still stands, right? I might like the receivers, but if you're going to sacrifice your depth at running back, that's tough.
Right. Well, and I know a lot of players out there too would rather not have to try and dive into the streaming pool when it comes to tight ends, right? Like that's one of those that Freiermuth gives you that peace of mind there. So again, I like both sides of the trade, and I've got no problem if you take it or you don't take it. You just have to make sure that, to Kevin's point there, that you feel really comfortable at your depth of these other positions there, or you must really have to be hurting at wide receiver in order to make that trade. So I'd be very interested to see, because Dave Davis is probably most likely your third wide receiver on your roster. I'd be really interested to see who wide receiver 1 and 2 already are on that one, because you could be talking to a point where, unless you've got a lot of flex deals or it's a 3 wide receiver set, that you're making that the Cooper, Devontae Smith, Curtis Samuel side are not going to see the starting lineup except in spot start type of things. So that's kind of where I think I'm looking at that too. So anyway, good talking point, good discussion there. Vincent over on YouTube saying, yo, it's week 4. Yes, it is. Alrighty. Kevin, let's go ahead and talk. Vincent also saying, let's go. Absolutely, let's go get it. Let's go ahead and head on over. We're going to talk about some Flex Fantasy. And with Flex Fantasy, if you're looking for a new, fun, and unique way to play fantasy football, you got to check out Flex Fantasy. The best way to challenge people not in your league. You got a disagreement amongst your friends or coworkers about whose team's better that you're not in the same league with? Settle the debate with Flex Fantasy. You can find them and sign up for it at flex.fan/goodoldboysff. That's FLEX.FAN/GOODOLDBOYSFF. Alrighty, let's go ahead and we're going to head over to the arena here in one moment. But first... Alrighty, so Flex Fantasy, that video always gets me fired up there, but Flex Fantasy, we're going to head over there. We're going to go straight to the arena. We're going to look at making some challenges. We're going to make a look at making some picks here on some folks. First team we're going to start off with here, we are going to take a look at Biased Opinions and PKSDG's team here. So matchup on that one. On one side, you got Russell Wilson, Jamal Williams, Cam Akers, Marquise Brown, Robert Woods, Jerry Jeudy, Travis Kelce, James Conner, Justin Tucker, Broncos defense, Melvin Gordon, facing off against Aaron Rodgers, Cam Akers, James Conner, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Smith, Tyreek Hill, Robert Tonyan, Ramondre Stevenson, McManus, the Cincinnati Bengals, and Pierce. Which way do you lean on this one?
I'm leaning... I think I'm going for the upset here. I think I'm going PK's team. I think I don't trust the fact that Russell Wilson's coming anywhere near his projections with the way that Denver Broncos offense have been playing. Cam Akers cancels it out, no big deal. I think Connor gets back up onto things. I think CeeDee Lamb continues Tyreek I like, even with the possibility of Teddy Two Gloves there. And then Damian Pierce down there at the bottom. So I think I'm calling for the upset. I'm taking PK's team.
I'm taking PK's team too, right? Because James Conner will cancel out. Cam Akers will cancel out. The wide receiver wise, I like CD, Devontae, Tyreek better than Hollywood Brown, Robert Woods, and Jerry Jeudy. So, I mean, really, you got Jamal Williams versus Ramondre Stevenson. That doesn't sway it enough for me. Travis Kelce versus Robert Tonyan. That doesn't sway it enough for me. The kickers, it's kind of a whatever for me on that one. And as far as that goes, Damian Pierce, I think we'll see more volume than Melvin Gordon will this week. So that's where I'm going as well. I like the PK's team. Head back over here to the arena on this one, and we're gonna go with Magnetic Owls team versus Trope Killers team here. And with the matchups, we're seeing Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Ken Walker, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Darren Waller, Elijah Moore, Miles Sanders, Shaquille Leonard, Harrison Butker, and the San Francisco 49ers defense versus Josh Allen, Alvin Kamara, Josh Jacobs, Darnell Mooney, Amari Cooper, George Kittle, J.K. Dobbins, Brandon Cooks, Roquan Smith, Carlson, and the Chargers defense. Which side do you like here?
It's very oh, there we go. Aha, here we go. Some of this is coming to light, seeing the bench. So as long as roster updates are made, I like Magnetic Owls team a bit more, right? You have Mahomes. I think he's going to come back with a bit of a vengeance here. Cooper Kupp, which obviously leads the way as far as all receivers go. Aaron Jones had a tough matchup against New England, but I think he can still remain serviceable. Ken Walker scares me a little bit, but overall, Kamara just isn't doing it for me right now. Darnell Mooney is nowhere to be seen on the field right now, so Trope Killer's team has a bit of work to do, but I think I'm going to take Magnetic Owls if he's able to get the roster adjusted appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, Cooper Kupp in there definitely swings things for me in a big way. Both of these rosters need some updating on this one. Darnell Mooney should not be in a starting roster position going forward. So, but I do like Magnetic Owls team at that point as well. Let's hit up one more. I see some more questions coming in, and we'll go ahead and hit that one. Whole lot of week 6 matchups in here, which I'm not sure why we've got week 6 matchups, but let's go ahead and hit. These are two teams we haven't talked about before. Tim A's team and Wally 420. Let's go ahead and take a look here at the matchup. This one straight up head to head. Deep roster here. Kyler Murray, Michael Carter, Antonio Gibson, Bateman, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Travis Kelce, Eckler, Mike Evans, Khalil Mack, Aaron Donald, Burns, Davis, Barton, Wagner, Gardner, Adderley, and Matthew for the defensive side of their Wally's team. Got Aaron Rodgers, Dalvin Cook, Najee, DK, Kirk, Sutton, Ertz, Cooks, Samuel, Jones, Judon, Davenport, Cunningham, Bolton, Holcomb, Surtain, Fitzpatrick, and Diggs. And they both got some deep benches here as well. But the way that they got that roster set up now, which way do you like and which way are you leaning?
Man. Sorry, there's a lot to digest here.
Yes, there is.
Gibson, I think I'm leaning here on the Rodgers side, right? Like I think Harris is going to start bouncing back here a little bit. DK Metcalf against the Lions, I like that. Christian Kirk's been on fire. Cortland Sutton's been Wilson's number one guy. And I think that's enough, right? Michael Carter has been losing timeshare. DJ Moore has been kind of anemic in that offense. Austin Eckler's been rather lackluster here to start the season as well, and with Herbert's injury. So I think I'm going. Yeah, I think I'm going with Wally's team here.
I like it. That's kind of the way that I was leaning when I was reading through these rosters as well. I like some of the players and some of the matchups there. DJ Moore was really close to being my pine this week here, but I found the juju that I liked for the bench even more so. But so guys, again, that's Flex Fantasy. Great new, fun, unique way to play play fantasy. Check it out over at Flex Fantasy. You can find it at flex.fan/GOODOLDBOYSFF. That's flex.fan/good old boys FF. And go ahead and sign up there. Help the boys out there as well. Alrighty. So Kevin, that's going to go ahead and do it for the flex side of things there. We do have some questions coming in here on the YouTubes. So we're going to hit some of those things out and hit that one out. Steve was saying that the Chef trade Pierce because the Texans are an illogical team with no direction. I mean, you're not necessarily wrong there. Vincent saying Russell Wilson has killed me in his league this year. Sniffer of all things. That's an interesting name. Saying hi. Well, hello. Steve saying that Russell Wilson does kill teams and leagues. I know. I've got him in the home league. I'm sorry about that. Russell Wilson didn't do much this season for the Broncos. He certainly hasn't. Broncos need a QB for NFL draft that showed this season. Okay. Here's a question. Vincent, do I sit Russell for Jimmy G at this point?
No, we just saw him go head to head. Let me elaborate. I think the Raiders defense is bad enough that we can give Russell another shot here this week, right? The 49ers, I believe, are going up against the Rams. The Rams have been bad against the pass also, but those games are always pretty tightly contested, right? That's, they played in the NFC Championship game last year. What was it, 20-17, I believe the final score was, or something of that nature. Like, I'm not benching Russell Wilson for Jimmy Garoppolo.
No. I mean Russell Wilson has been awful to start the season off, especially when it comes to finding the end zone, things like that. But yeah, Jimmy G, man, we just saw him gift the Broncos 2 points, and that was a savior for the 49ers because he almost threw the pick six there. So I think I'm going to stick with Russ on that one. Steve saying go to free agency for QBs. Both won't do any good there. Alrighty, let's see here. There's some more coming through here. Vince was saying there's nothing on the waiver wire to pick up for the quarterbacks there. I mean, at this point, I think I'd actually rather start Geno Smith than I would Jimmy G this week. And
for this week, yeah.
And I highly doubt Geno Smith is rostered in really any league out there, short of a super flex that has 12 teams in it. Alrighty. So, alrighty. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but they're asking the question, should I drop Bateman or Judy for Olave? Other wide receivers are Waddle, Higgins, Godwin. So
I'd drop Judy for Olave.
Yeah, I would as well. Olave is a guy that I think we saw the breakout start to happen here, and I think that this is only going to continue. So, I would absolutely drop Judy for Olave. Vincent asking if Russell bombs again, then what? So if you're a fantasy manager that has Russell Wilson on your roster, you've been very disappointed for the first 3 weeks. If he makes it to a fourth week, how would you proceed on that one?
Well, you've already said there's nothing on the waiver wire, so you're sitting tight. Trying to package a trade deal if you have to, I guess. But if there's nothing on the waiver wire, then you don't really have an option, right? Like 14-team league and everyone's kind of hoarding quarterbacks or something like that. It's possible, right? We've seen crazier things happen. So
right.
That's really the go-to. You either have to sell, you try to sell Russ, but it's at his lowest point in the season. And so you're not going to get really anything in return for Russell Wilson, or you keep him and try and stream quarterbacks for a couple weeks to see if he turns around.
Yeah, I would agree with that one there as well, right? Like Yeah, you could find somebody that's sitting there with 3 quarterbacks on their roster and would be willing to. You could put together a trade package there where you're sending Russ off, you're getting somebody back, right? But you're not going to be getting back, anything great there, right? Like you might be getting. I mean, realistically, you'd have to send out Russ and a high, probably a wide receiver 2 or a running back 2 to try and go out and get like a Derek Carr type. You're not really moving up much there in that one, at least in my opinion. Double D Red Solo Cups 32. Should I trade Terry McLaurin and Devin Singletary for ETN? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. Singletary is already doing better than what ETN has been thus far, and Terry McLaurin's still a viable wide receiver 2 candidate. So I would not be making that trade.
Yeah, I'd agree. Or maybe Kyler Murray. I mean, I wouldn't if it's a super flex, I wouldn't have a problem going out and getting Kyler Murray as my second QB. But if it's single QB league, I would rather still have McLaurin and Devin Singletary.
Fact. I'm not trusting Kyler.
Correct. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce this one, but they're asking the question, should I drop Henderson for Edmonds, Akers, or Herbert? My other running backs are Cook, Swift, and Zeke. Shaking his head right now.
I'd grab Herbert over Henderson and just stay away from the Rams backfield if you can. I think that's fair. The Bears are going to run the piss out of the football. So, he'll have some value and has shown that he has value standalone even with Monty there. So with the amount of touches he's seeing each week and his explosiveness, I would drop Henderson for Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, I would agree with that one as well. I mean, you could potentially still, right? You may still see Jamal Williams out there on waiver wires. I saw that in a fair bit of leagues out there. You may still have Madison out there. Yeah, there's some intriguing things there that you could potentially try and pick up and go that route there too. Vincent was laughing there at that one there earlier. Would you do Terry and Singletary for Javonte? That one I would lean towards yes.
I don't know. I mean, Javonte's been kind of in that same boat, right? Like he's still splitting 50-50 with Melvin Gordon. We've yet to see that team really take off. Like he's good for 55 yards and 2 catches. I mean, you're consistently getting 7 fantasy points out of Javonte right now. It's not like he's exploding up the field. Hasn't gotten into the end zone yet. We've seen Singletary at least get into the end zone a couple times. His passing game works a little bit higher than Javonte, and Terry's still a wide receiver too. So we like the name Javonte. It's a sexy name. Believe me, here in Denver, we want him to be the guy, but the offense hasn't shown enough cohesiveness to, I guess, get your return back on what Javonte is costing people.
Right. I think, I'd rather have the depth, right? Like if you're going to have Javonte as your RB2, you need to have like a Jonathan Taylor, somebody with that kind of workload that, you're hoping to catch an upswing on a Javonte breakout week. And for that, he's saying it's, going back to kind of that trade for Kyler. It's a non-super flex, but he has Lamar, no backup.
You don't need a backup if you have Lamar.
Nope. And even if it's a single QB league, there should be waiver wire options out there. Should you need to go that route, and should you need to try and pick one up for a week, absolutely. Like you can find guys on the waiver wire in single QB leagues and just stream the position if you have to. If you lose out on Lamar to injury or something like that. Gets on YouTube, what kind of trade should I look for? He says his team sucks. 12-person league, half or 0.75 point PPR, 2 running back, 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league. Main players are Patterson, Connor, Kupp, Evans, Elijah Moore, Jacoby Myers, Dobbins, Hawkinson.
I think you're just waiting to get over some injuries, right? Connor banged up. Evans didn't play last week. Elijah Moore, we expect to get better once Zach Wilson comes back. Jacoby didn't play last week. Dobbins is coming off a knee injury. You just took a lot of risk with this team, and you caught a bad week. Like, I don't know that your team is terrible. Patterson has a ton of PPR value. Kupp is obviously, a mainstay in PPR leagues. We saw Hawkinson get into the end zone last week as the Lions' offensive line gets healthier. We'll see him run more routes. I don't know that your team's that bad. It's just had a bad start to the year. So I'd honestly kind of tell you to hold off. If it comes down to it and you're trying to really get a haul, you're going to trade Kupp. And you're not going to like it, but you're going to trade Kupp, and you're going to see if you can get something like a A.J. Brown and then a running back or something to go with it. Like, that's the type of move that you would like to make to kind of improve your team immediately. But I think I'm just sitting tight and chalking the start of the season up to, some injuries and some different type of quarterback play. But Myers has been a PPR, has been doing well for PPR. He's seen a ton of catches before he got dinged up this last weekend. Dobbins is going to get healthier, so you'll be able to have some flexibility there at running back. Hawkinson should start to see more routes run. Evans is still going to have 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns by the time the season's done and over with. So I think you're better off than what you think you are.
I would agree with that, right? One other guy that I wouldn't mind necessarily trying to move and sell, be high on, Cordell Patterson, right? He's depending on, so it's a 0.75 point PPR. In PPR, he's running back 6 on the season. In half point PPR, he's running back 5. So, in your league, he's running back either 5 or 6, depending upon, how that other quarter of a point kind of shakes out there on that one. So at that point, I could see if I could try and sell him high, potentially bring in another high-powered running back there, something like that. But you're not going to be able to get like name value back for Cordell Patterson. So if you're looking at, guys that are going to be top 12 running backs kind of thus far, Nick Chubb, you're not going to be able to get him. Saquon, not going to be able to get him. James Robinson, no. CEH, I wouldn't go after CEH. DeAndre Swift, no. Jamal Williams, one of those two guys is going to fall out of the top 12 here very soon. Khalil Herbert, I think we'll fall back on that one. Aaron Jones, maybe. But do you want to try and get rid of Patterson, who pretty much has that backfield locked up, to go out and get a guy that's in a heavy timeshare in Aaron Jones? No. Jonathan Taylor, you're not going to be able to get that one. Christian McCaffrey, not going to be able to get that one. Derrick Henry, not going to be able to get that one. So, you could potentially try and move Cordell Patterson on the high side, but I just don't see a move on where you're going to be able to go out and get somebody else to bring in for him on that one, right? Maybe you can go and get a Miles Sanders, a Najee, or a Leonard Fournette type of thing if those managers are frustrated with those guys. Joe Mixon, if those managers are frustrated with that. But I wouldn't make that trade if I'm on the other side of that. So I think you're right. I think really the only big piece that you have to try and sell is Kupp, and you're going to need a haul back in order to try and make that deal where you're looking fringe wide receiver 1, and you're looking for a healthy, very solid fringe running back 1 type of thing to try and make it out of that one all right. And I don't know that you're going to be able to really come back at that point from it. Swavey JP on YouTube, should I trade Dalvin Cook for Tyreek Hill? I'd probably make that trade.
If you're happy with your running back depth, then absolutely.
Yeah. He's saying, assuming I have depth at both positions. So if you have depth at both positions, yeah, I think I'd take the Tyreek side of that one.
I agree, especially in PPR leagues.
Yes, absolutely. Vincent, sell Thielen or hold? It depends on what you mean by sell. Are you cutting him or are you trading him? If I can trade him and get anything back in value on that, I'm going to do that. But if I'm going to cut him, it depends on what's on the waiver wire, to be honest with you.
Cosign.
Okay. Red D Solo 32 on YouTube. I'm just trying to free up roster spots. Team's pretty good, but there's too much value on the waivers. Want to scoop up Brian Robinson and such. Terry and Singletary for who needs a flex/backup. maybe you can go out and get a Breece Hall. I mean, that might not be a bad move.
Right. I mean, I'd take a fly. I mean, honestly, I'd take a flyer at the James Robinson owner.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I mean, might as well take a flyer at the James Robinson owner. See what he has to say about it. That you might be able to get something done there. Najee, again, if they're frustrated with how Najee's going, I think that's fine. Honestly, Kareem Hunt is another guy, right? Like, it's better than Singletary. It's probably a little bit worse than Terry, but if this is what you're trying to do, then somewhere in that neighborhood of player, or McLaurin and Singletary for like Christian Kirk. Like, I think that's a possibility as well. Aim higher. Like, basically, that's what I'm trying to get after. Aim higher. Don't go after Kyler as a backup quarterback when you have Lamar. You don't need or want that. ETN hasn't done squat. Don't give up too much to buy a guy low. Go after someone who's been performing here. So Michael Pittman, try James Robinson, try Christian Kirk.
That was the name I was just going to ask you about. Is Christian Kirk a guy to try and go after and target there? That would be kind of a guy I'd look out there as well for that one. So I like it. Sounds like we're in agreement on that one. So Git saying he almost had a guy do Connor and Patterson for Taylor, but he turned it down last second. That would have been,
Would have been nice. Would have been real nice.
Vincent was saying back to the Thielen side, sell high. Yeah, I mean, if you can get something out of that for a sell high, I would, but it depends on what you're looking to get back on.
Hunter Renfrow.
And yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at, right? You're not Hunter Renfrow. Until last night, I guess you could sell him for Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
See if Michael
Romeo
Gallup's up there
Dobbs.
you want to do there. Romeo Dobbs. I mean, up until last week, you could have probably done Chris Olave, but now I think that isn't going to work.
I would take a shot on Jahan Dotson, even like at that point type of thing.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't know what kind of trade market you're going to really find
Curtis
on that one.
Samuel. Try Curtis Samuel.
Yes.
I mean, you might need Thielen and a piece, but I mean, try Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, I like it. Red D over there on YouTube saying Jokelin sent a trade Hollywood Brown and James Conner for Evans and Kamara, and he said yes because he liked the Arizona offense. Yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the Hollywood side.
So I could get behind it because I do think that Evans finishes rest of the season higher than Brown. And I think Kamara
I like the Evans piece. It's the Kamara piece that I'm scared as hell about. Like, I just don't trust what they're doing in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara. Like, they're not throwing him the ball. They're not targeting him. Like, that's where Alvin Kamara made his name, was getting 82 catches a year and being able to bank on 8 to 12 touchdowns. That's not how they're using him now. You're going to end up with like 55 catches, and you're probably going to be in the neighborhood of 6 touchdowns. Like, it's just not the same guy that we've been accustomed to going after.
Right. Yeah. I to be honest though, I not going to surprise me if you see both James Conner and Alvin Kamara end up running back 15 type of thing, season long type of deal there. So I can get behind either way. I think I actually kind of lean a little bit more on the Evans Kamara side, but Swavy JP, assuming that he has wide receiver depth, should I trade Cortland Sutton for DeAndre Hopkins and stash him for late season upside? I wouldn't. No.
If you're looking to trade Sutton, you need to be really selling high on him right now. He is the only show in town here in Denver. He's the guy that Russell Wilson clearly has the most trust in. He's been very good for PPR. The touchdowns will come, but right now he's getting the receptions and all the yardage that you could ask for in a guy that you're probably playing in your flex spot. The touchdowns will come, but I wouldn't. DeAndre Hopkins is coming back. We got to see how he looks like, figure out what's going on with this Arizona offense, and they they just have more mouths to feed. They have Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins and Dortch, which has kind of emerged there, plus James Conner coming out of the backfield. There's more mouths to feed.
Plus Rondale Moore. Yeah, they've got so much out there that,
I'd rather have Sutton.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not even thinking twice about that one. Alrighty, Baby Sansa, would you trade away Bateman and Ertz for Gabe Davis, Irv Smith?
I don't know what the trade actually does for you. Like,
right.
You might like the name of Davis more, but Bateman's going to finish the year with more catches. Davis might have another touchdown or two, and I trust Ertz in the end zone or in the red zone for Kyler much more than I trust Irv Smith after seeing his butterfingers here the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I think I'd take the Bateman and Ertz side of things far more. Yeah, that's where I'm going as well. Bateman and Ertz is where I would lean on that one as well. Red Solo Cup asking, saying he has that Lazard and Dobbs are on the waiver. What should I do? Dobbs is where I'm going.
PPR Dobbs, standard league, Lazard.
There we go. Traded away Hollywood High because he has D-Hops. Kamara will be fine. The Saints can't keep up with this passing pace. They might.
I'll agree to disagree.
So
Winston's a part of that 30-30 club for a reason.
Yes. So we will see how that one trades out there. But yeah, D-Hop, I want to see what D-Hop looks like when he comes back before I'm going to sign off on that one, right? Like before he left, right? Like he's approaching that age where we start seeing wide receivers fall off, soft tissues injuries start creeping in there. Missed last season with soft tissue injury. Like, I want to see him back before I'm really kind of going after D-Hop with any sort of like high value asset to try and acquire him. Swabian team is Cook, Chubb, Saquon, Eckler, J.K. Dobbins, A.J. Dillon. It's a stout running back room. Wide receivers are Pittman, Amon-Ra, Higgins, Sutton. Tight ends, Pitts, and a 10-man PPR. Any trade ideas?
Depending on if you want, depending if you want an upgraded quarterback, right?
Right.
Then you're trying to package. I'd package like Higgins and Dillon and see if that name does enough, and see if you can get an upgraded quarterback.
He says that he has Wilson at quarterback. So yeah,
okay,
that would be the way that I would roll at that as well. Higgins would be the wide receiver that I'd be looking to try and trade away there and package that with either JK or AJ Dillon. I would lean towards AJ Dillon. And if you need a little bit more firepower to get the deal done, I might go with the JK side of things. Just the name on that one's a little bit higher name value on that one. But yeah, I would go out and I'd try and get me a quarterback. I'm assuming that's a QB, one QB league there. And so, yeah, I would see if I could go out and try and get a guy that has, elite type of upside on that one, and see if I can't go out and get me a top 5, top 6 quarterback on that one. So,
and it sounds crazy, but Wilson, if you're that pissed off with Wilson, see if you can trade Wilson and AJ Dillon for like Tom Brady. And I know Brady's stats through the first few weeks haven't been that great, but this team is going to get healthy. And when it does, Tom Brady's still going to be slinging it there. So he's an option. I think kind of your I think you could look at a Dak Prescott, which would probably be an upgrade over Wilson when he gets back, but then you're looking at having to trade. Then you're back to Higgins and Dillon, trading the Prescott owner. But I think Allen, Herbert, Lamar, Jalen Hurts are automatically off the table. So maybe you're looking at something like a Joe Burrow, something in that kind of neighborhood there. Maybe you can get Tua. Tua wouldn't be a bad piece to have here rest of the season. If you want to trade for Hurts, it's going to cost you one of your top 3 backs. So get rid of Dalvin Cook, keep Chubb, Saquon, and Eckler, and see if you can get Dalvin Cook and Wilson. I mean, for Jalen Hurts and some scrap heap player that you can just drop later.
Right. I mean, that would be about the only way I could see doing a deal like that is you're going to have to give away. You have to give away a lot to get a guy like Jalen Hurts
and they'll counter with Chubb or Saquon. So just be ready.
And I don't know that I'm willing to come off of Chubb or Saquon or even Eckler for that matter to try and make that deal on that one.
I might move off of Eckler.
Yeah, fair enough.
It just hasn't looked great, and you got enough depth behind it. You're going to be starting Cook, Chubb, and Saquon anyway. So I'd move off of Eckler if I had to, but I'd start with Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. So much capital. Yeah, that's Jalen Hurts is going to. You're going to have to give up that kind of capital to try and go get him. Unless you can get a sweetheart deal, but if you come at
QB3,
yes. If you come at less, like if you were coming at an offer on that one for less than something that even kind of puts us in the ballpark to start a conversation, typically probably wouldn't get a response on that one from me anyway. He's also saying Wilson right rebound.
Yes,
I mean he certainly could. He certainly could, right? Like we could see the Denver offense figuring that thing out. He's saying, let's ride. Absolutely. We hope that the Broncos can figure out how to ride. Francisco, would you trade Zeke for Gabe Davis?
That's a close one. I think I would. I think I would take the high-end upside of Gabe Davis over the frustration of split carries with Zeke.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Zeke, this was one of those that we sold everybody coming into the season. That Zeke's value wasn't going to be from his workload like he's been in the past. It was going to be the fact that Dallas, potentially had the chance to get down and score a lot of points, and that you may see Zeke absolutely be just, utilized heavily in the 5 zone. And with Dak not there, Dallas didn't score many points, and we'll see what Dak and this Cowboys offense looks like when he comes back. But yeah, I would move off of that one as well. Red Solo, drop Rachaad White for Brian Robinson. He does not have Fournette. I probably would do that. Yeah.
I think Robinson's going to get run. Rachaad White's not really getting anything right now. Fournette's kind of running that town. And once they get healthy, when they want to rest Fournette, Tom Brady's going to sling it.
Right.
Like he's got all this wide receiver talent around him. So I think you're safe to make that trade, especially in redraft.
Yeah, I would as well.
Or free agent move, sorry.
Yeah. Do I trade London for Hurts? London is wide receiver 3 in a 3 was I'd leave, but QBs are Dak and Stafford. I'll tell you right now, there's no way that I'm going to trade Drake London for Jalen Hurts.
If you can get it, do it.
Yeah.
If you can get it, do it, and then trade away Stafford or Dak and get something else that you want.
Yeah, but there's about zero chance that I would do that if that offer came my way. Someone just offered him Josh Jacobs and Michael Thomas for Eckler.
Pass.
Agreed. Well, Eckler's been.
I'd rather have Eckler.
Yeah, while he's been frustrating, I'm not so sure that we didn't just start seeing the full-on transition from Michael Thomas to Chris Olave in that offense. As far as
Thomas, and he just got nicked up. And Josh Jacobs is not really ever hitting his potential. Although this week, Josh Jacobs has a propensity to just gash the Broncos, so it wouldn't surprise me if he just went ham this week.
Yep.
But season long, I would rather have Eckler, and if you're looking at moving him, he carries enough star power that you should be able to get better than that.
Yes, I would agree with that. Red Solo Davis just needs to stay healthy. Absolutely. Francisco, 10-team, full PPR, 2 flex. My team is Kirk, Swift, Mixon, Kupp, Sutton, Pitts, Ayuk, Pierce, Zeke on the bench. Thoughts for me? I guess it kind of depends on, are you looking to start those guys? Or are you looking for thoughts to improve the roster? I guess I'm a little confused by the.
So if you already have Kirk, Kupp, and Sutton, like there's your wide receiver and your flex spot. Yeah, Mixon's banged up, but you can play Pierce or Zeke in the pinch until he comes back. I mean, yeah, you can still do it. I think after looking at this,
He's saying that he's looking to improve his team.
Gabe Davis is just going to be sitting on the bench. Like it, if you get wins for bench points, I think that helps you. But I just if Gabe Davis isn't going to be put in your flex spot, I don't see how that improves your team. And with that roster, he wouldn't be. You're going to play Kupp and Sutton and Christian Kirk over Gabe Davis.
Yes. 100% agree. Yeah, and I think I like that, especially right now with what you've got. Mixon, it sounds like Mixon may be out 3 weeks for you. So I don't know
He put
that
in a full practice today.
Okay. I saw the presser where Dan Campbell was saying that they may not utilize him until after the bye.
We'll see. I mean, if he's a full participant in practice, my guess is they're going to use him.
I would also agree with that. It's Kirk Cousins, not Christian
Okay. Then, okay.
Kirk, I think you're okay at quarterback. I don't know that you're necessarily looking to upgrade that. Swift, Mixon, those are smash starts, yes, when both are healthy. Kupp, Sutton, both smash starts. Pitts, you're not going to.
If that's Kirk Cousins,
I mean, Cousins is going to finish as a fringe QB1. Yeah, he'll finish anywhere from QB 10 to 14, I think.
Yeah, and if you really want to move off of Zeke, I'd package Cousins with it and see what you can do about improving quarterback again. Like everyone likes the Cousins idea, but sometimes it's a little difficult to swallow.
Because you're going to have to ride the wave with him.
Yeah, you got to take the highs and the lows for sure. So, I mean, I think more so than Davis, if you're looking to move off of Zeke, I'd do Zeke and Kirk Cousins and see if you can upgrade a quarterback first. That'll do more for your team than getting Gabe Davis.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because you're just going to, between Davis and Ayuk in the flex, you're always going to be pissed off at the one you don't start. Ayuk's been just enough involved in the passing game there in San Francisco that I think you'd be frustrated between the two of them.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Should I offer that guy Patterson and Connor for Eckler?
It's a short-term loss for a long-term gamble.
Mm-hmm.
With the usage that Cordell Patterson is seeing out of this Atlanta offense, as kind of ho-hum as they are with Marcus Mariota quarterback, Patterson's better than Eckler right now anyway. And yeah, you want to sell high and buy low, but we kept thinking Patterson was going to fall off a cliff last year, and he never did. Never did. I think Atlanta's just kind of found the key to unlocking him. So I don't know if I make that trade. I feel like your team is better off keeping those two running backs as opposed to a marquee name running back who's been underperforming year to date.
Right. And it's, again, too, we don't necessarily know how long that this injury is going to last with Herbert here as well. Yeah, I think I have a tough time kind of signing off on that one too. Like that could be one of those that it sounds great. It sounds like a big name, but I think in the long run, you might be happier with having those two versus kind of thing. So, Red Solos, Kirk is one of the most consistent guys, though. Yeah, he's the reason that season long he tends to finish inside QB1 territory, and you see him get to QB 10, 9, something like that on the season, isn't because he puts up monster games, things like that. It's because typically you don't see him do those, very, very poor performances where he finishes outside QB 20. But he's also infamously one of the guys a few years ago in Scott Fishbowl where put up negative points in that league because of some performances there. So your quarterback consistency, a little bit of a myth there because don't be surprised when we look up at the end of the season and we see somewhere between 40 and 45 quarterbacks finish inside QB1 territory over the course of all the different weeks out there. So there's a little bit of a misnomer out there when it comes to consistency on that one. The guys that are consistent at the position are your guys like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Who am I missing?
Traditionally, it's been Rodgers and Brady.
Yep. Like those guys there would be what I would consider consistent performances. Everybody else, it'll be kind of up and down there a little bit. Should I drop Jess Wilson for Jamal Williams, Madison, or Herbert? I don't know that Wilson's still got at least 5 to 6 weeks of run. Jamal Williams at most, I think, has 2 or 3 weeks. Madison maybe has 2 or 3 weeks, and Herbert maybe has a couple of weeks here. Like, I don't know that makes much sense rest of the season to do.
I think I'd be looking to drop a different player, and I'd be going for Herbert over Williams and Madison.
I think so. Red Solo saying last year he swears Kirk had no games over 25 points, but not a single fake game under 16, 17 points. He's going to get this. He's like, Kirk greater than Dak, don't at me in real life, fantasy wise aside. So, I mean, Dak certainly has a higher ceiling there, but I would rather have Dak than Kirk.
Yeah, the Cowboys were the highest scoring offense in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk Cousins has never done that for a team.
Nope.
Now, It is what it is. I mean, they're just options.
Absolutely. So, well, guys, I do think that's going to do it for us. Thanks very much for everybody tuning in there. Kevin, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Good luck heading into week 4. As always, hit us up if you have any questions. We're more than happy to lend an opinion and try and help everybody out. But thanks for tuning in, and y'all have a good week.
Absolutely. Again, guys, appreciate everybody in the chat. Always love the interaction, the questions. We'll be live again Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern here. We'll go live again Sunday morning, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. For those 2 days coming up here as well. As always, you can get a hold of us on the socials in the meantime, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Good Old Boys FF, as well as you can find us on the YouTubes, the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. That is one of the best ways to support this independent podcast. Hit the subscribe button over there. Smash the like button. Absolutely love all of the interaction, love all of that. And there is a Sunday night game, or London Sunday game, right? Absolutely. Early morning Sunday game. Kevin and I will be talking about that on the Friday show, like we always do when we hit those things up and we go through all the game breakdowns there, call our shots on, spreads, the over-unders, and the player props there. And again, best way to view that over on YouTube. Click the subscribe button there. Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. That's going to do it for Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a good one.